Well, first of
Hi.
all, greetings from Toronto. Hello.
Oh,
Oh,
hi, Toronto.
We
there we go. Our
missed
second
you.
home.
We
I'm
Yeah.
missed
so
you
sorry
guys.
about the Blue Jays. I was rooting for you guys. Oh, man.
Please do not rub that in. It was so close.
I'm not rubbing it in. I felt it, man. That was rough. It was
It
so
was
close.
rough. But you know what? Both teams gave us great entertainment. Our Jays were amazing, and we're going to get it next year, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It was the greatest. I mean, I was trying to explain to my sons that was about as the greatest World Series I've ever seen.
I agree. I completely
Yeah.
agree. It was like, and I'm more of a bandwagon girl, I have to say. I mean, I've been to a few games and everything, but my God, it was riveting. So listen, thanks to
Yeah.
both teams. All good, all good. Okay, guys. Well, first of all, we miss you here in Toronto. I don't know whether
We
to
miss you.
thank you for shooting this here or not. Honestly, riveting series. From beginning to end, I just tears streaming down my face. I don't even know. So Patrick, I want to start with you.
Yeah.
Um, Listen, portraying true crime is not easy on any feed, like whether it's audio, video, whatever. It's a hard thing to tackle. And I understand that you did turn this down a couple of times and then you finally relented and said, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it. So
Hmm.
was it that made you change your not mind and also not to portray this monster by glorifying him? That had to have been a challenge.
Yeah. It was. You know what? I actually don't want to say that. I think it was a challenge at first to figure out how to do the story. And you mentioned that I turned it down a couple of times. And the reason I turned it down was I just didn't want to tell John Wayne Gacy's story. I didn't think it was necessary.
Sure.
But once we figured out that we could tell the story of the victims and their, it's first and foremost, and their families and the lawyers and the police, that became just completely, it was clarity for me. And it was clarity for our writers room, right? Like we understood what the mission was. We understood what our desires had to be in terms of keeping on that mission, so that we never sort of veered into the world of gratuitous or salacious or glorification in any way, shape, or form. And so
Sure.
long as we stayed on that path, we were okay. And I will say that I am so proud of what they did, of what our actors did.
Mm,
I truly believe, and then look, the proof is in the pudding. We've been very successful on Peacock. The press have found it and figured out exactly what we were trying to do from minute one, right? They
yes.
got what we were trying to do, and that is
Yes.
a huge win, right? Because for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a huge win because it proves that you can be a successful piece of true crime without showing violence, without glorifying the monster, right? And then
100%.
I will just say selfishly, which is totally unselfishly, but I have to say, like, I am so grateful that people are seeing what Michael did, right?
Well,
What he did, and I know you're going to get into it, so I won't expound upon it. But like, not just on the screen, but what you didn't see because you weren't on set was what a leader he was off the screen as well. And it was just an extraordinary experience, and I am so grateful that people are coming to it, because I think that it's just underlining for the cast, the writers, the crew, that what they did was something special. Because
yes.
it is not ultimately about me. It is genuinely about all of them. All of the hours that they put into it, they had
Mhm.
to know that they were doing something special, and audiences and critics alike are supporting that.
100%. And yes, the whole cast is great. But Michael, like, yes, I honestly, again, I don't think, you getting this offer, look, you come off Severance and you're freaking awesome on that show, by the way. Like,
Thank you.
oh my God, I love that series so much. But then I see you in this and I'm like, oh my God, and I can't imagine that you were handed the script and you were like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. Like there has to have been some thought process here. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because yeah, this guy, man, whoa, whoa. That's all I can say.
Oh, whoa, indeed. I mean, he's the maybe the worst of the worst, if there is such a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was approached about it initially, when my agent said, they're making this show about John Gacy and your name has been mentioned, um, look, I was hesitant from the start. First of all, I was like, haven't we told that story 1,000 times? Like, what more could I add to that?
Yeah.
What more could anyone add to it? Like, why do we need to return to that story. And I was very scared because I was like, there's so many pitfalls in telling that story and embodying him. I in no way want to be part of something that's going to glorify him or continue
Of
to
course.
put the spotlight on him, because in a lot of ways that's what he wanted, or it was one of the things he wanted, you know, to continue to give attention to these types of people is part of what they wanted their infamy. So when I met with Patrick and he told me the approach of this show, I was initially hesitant, and then immediately when he told me the approach of the show, I was immediately drawn in, because all those hesitations and fears were put to rest. Because first of all, you can tell just speaking with him what a wonderful human being he is and how humble he is, and that's contagious. Like, I mean, he
Yeah.
really set this tone of we're going to focus on the victims, and I think we all heard that call and wanted to answer it. And um, so for me, then the challenge became, how do I fully embody this guy in a way that we can tell this story? Because unfortunately,
Yeah.
he's an important part of the story. How do I embody him fully without it ever really becoming about him? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's such
Yeah.
a fine line.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially like I've played a lot of supporting roles, and the thing that, you know, people will say to you, like meaning it as a compliment, is, "Oh, like you really stole that scene, or you were a scene
Yeah.
stealer." And like the last thing I wanted to do when playing John Gacy was to steal the focus. You know, I wanted it to be um, that we see all of him,
Yes.
only insofar as it serves us understanding how this happened and how he got away with it for so long. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to say, because Patrick, God bless you. You know, we don't see the violence, thank God. You know, we don't see any of that. You know, we can use our imaginations. We've, like you say, Michael, we know the story. We've seen it portrayed. We've read about him for years. Blah blah blah. So kudos to you for that. But what I think is the most scary part about this whole thing, this guy was pretty darn normal in his real life, right? He could have been my next door neighbor and I would have been like, hey, you want to come over for coffee? Like, whatever, right? And then what does he do? Murders 33. I mean, people like just this is the scariest part. So to show that first from your perspective, Patrick, how challenging was that? And then Michael, I want you to address that too, please.
So very, very quickly on my end, in the writing, it was super hard because you don't believe it at first, right? Like as I began to, when I was just alone and there was nobody else, and I was just trying to get the show green lit, right? I had to do all this research, and I had to listen to him, and I had to read about him, and everything that I read about, I was like, okay, it's exactly what you said, Bonnie, right?
Mm,
Like this is this guy that you would invite over for coffee. So I write the script. And I write the script, and the studio and the network go, it's just, I don't, he's not serial killery. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what to tell you. And then we got the green
yeah,
light, and we get into the room, and these writers who I've worked with for years, some of them, one of them for 13 years, another one for 10 years, another one for 8 years, right? For years, we've been in each other's lives. And they come into the room on the first day having read the script, because they were all hired. I didn't have to interview them. They're the writers, right? So they come into the room the first day, and they're like, pardon me, Bonnie, but they're like, bullshit. This
yeah,
is
no,
not
no,
this is not real. And I
yeah,
was like, guys, do me a favor. Just go off and do your research and come back to me. And like 2, 3, 4 days later, as they worked through, they're like, we don't know how to write this person, right?
mm,
Because it just doesn't make sense.
for
And
sure.
we figured our way through it. And now I'll kick the baton over to Michael, who had to bring it to life.
Yeah, because Michael also, like we said, he's been portrayed. I mean, the great Brian Dennehy played. It's all different, but your approach is so awesome. But again, at the end of the day, every day when they go cut, like, how do you even wash this guy off? Like, seriously, you know?
I mean, you know, some days I didn't completely wash him off. It was a hard shoot, but I think some of the other actors had a harder job in terms of the emotional toll of it,
For
because,
sure.
you know, like Marin Ireland, who plays Elizabeth Peace, has to show up every day and be searching for her son, and then find out her son is dead, and find out that he was thrown in the river, and they can't even look for his body until the river thaws in the spring. And so she has to show up and have her heart on her sleeve. And for me, in a way, the research before we started shooting was a lot harder, because in playing him, John Gacy was so compartmentalized, in my opinion, and so detached from the reality of what he was doing, that he didn't have any emotional attachment to it. He didn't care. And that's you spoke of like how ordinary he was, which is how he got away with it for so long, was he blended in to normal society. But even when he was caught and then he spoke about his crimes, it was so matter of fact. You know, well, yeah, there's an interview where he talks about his last victim, Rob Peast, how he threw him in the river. And he said, well, yeah, I pulled over and opened up the trunk and I threw him in. And the person interviewing him was like, yeah, they were like, you did what? And he's like, well, there was no great big deal about it. I just dumped him in the river. And the way that he would talk about changing a tire on a car or making a bowl of spaghetti was the same way he talked about killing a young man. It was just matter of fact, you know, there was no great big thing about it. And for me, in a way, like playing him, I had to embody that. And what was scarier sometimes was how little it actually affected me, if I'm being honest, you know, like, because he wasn't affected by it. It was only like later, like after we wrapped and I left Toronto, when it all kind of came crashing down.
Sure. Yeah.
Sometimes we'd be shooting and I was just not in touch with what I was having to do, because I was so inside of John Gacy's insanity.
Yeah, I can just imagine. Well, we had our great city to keep you sane too, right?
I love Toronto so much. We lived in the Annex neighborhood. My daughter was 1.5 when we started shooting. We rented this house, and we fell in love with Toronto so much. We want to move there. And our
open arms, my friends, open arms.
You say that, but we met with an immigration attorney who was like, it's not that easy to move here from the U.S.
Well, whatever I could do to help, I would love to have you. Unfortunately, I have to wrap, guys. I wish I could talk to you for hours about this, but truly one of the best true crime series I've watched in a billion years. Michael, you are outstanding. Keep up the great work that you're giving us, and hope you gentlemen have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for your time today.
You too,
really
please spread the word, Bonnie. We need you,
Oh,
okay?
it's spreading. I'm Critics'
All
Choice.
right.
So hello, got my tick. You got my
spread
ticket.
the word.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Be good.
Toronto.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.